Hello, my health and safety professionals. Welcome once again to our tutorial for NEBOSH International General Certificate. We are still moving on with our syllabus. We are currently discussing element 10, which is talking about fires. And in our today's video, we are going to talk about the control measures of combustible and flammable materials. In our previous video, we discussed the control measures to minimize the spread of fires in workplaces. So in our today's video, I want our discussion to deal with the control measures of combustible and flammable materials. We said that in our previous video, we said that in order to minimize the risk of fires in workplaces, we should ensure that we control the three principles of fire, which is referred to as the fire triangle. And that is the control of fuel sources. The second one is to control the ignition sources. And the third one is to control the oxygen sources. If you are able to control these three elements, then it will become very simple. It will become very easy for you to prevent the start of fire and even the spread of fire. Now, let's go one by one so that by the end of today's tutorial, you will be in a position to know how you can handle combustible materials in your workplace as well as flammable materials. When you talk about combustible materials, we are talking about the solid materials that can easily burn, and that is under class A of fires, and that is the cardboards, papers, plastic, wood, and many other materials. These are the combustible materials that we are talking about. When we're talking about the flammable materials, we are talking about flammable liquids and flammable gases. When we are talking about liquids, we are talking about the petrol, paraffin, and many other liquids which are flammable. When we are talking about the flammable gases, we are talking about the butane, methane, and other gases. So in order for us to control this, which method are efficient to control these materials in order to prevent the start of fire in the workplace? Number one method is elimination. Now, when we are discussing the control measures here, we are basically talking about the 5 hierarchy of control. And that is exactly what will help us to control and to prevent the start of fire and the spread of fire in workplaces. There are 5 hierarchy of control. The first and the most efficiently is the first one, which is elimination. When there is a presence of hazard in your workplace, the best method is to remove that hazard completely from the workplace. But sometimes it becomes difficult to do so. For example, if you are working with machines or equipments or mechanical machines which require liquids such as petrol and diesel, then it is very difficult to eliminate the whole of these liquids because they are essential for the operation of the plants or the equipment. Therefore, that will take us to the second hierarchy of control. So the first and the priority is to remove the hazard in the workplace. And we said that since petrol, which is useful to the running or to the day-to-day running of the equipment in the organization cannot be eliminated completely. Therefore, we need to look for an alternative method or an alternative control measure in order that we will keep the ball rolling. We will ensure that work does not stop. At the same time, we are taking all the precaution measures to ensure that the workplace remains safe. And that is when it is taking us to the next hierarchy of control, which is substitution. If we cannot eliminate the hazard in our workplace, we can look for an alternative hazard with less severe effect. So if we take an example of the petrol as a hazard, then we may decide to substitute petrol with diesel running machines. Instead of buying or purchasing petrol running equipments, then we are going to opt into buying diesel running equipments. So when you look at diesel performs the same work that petrol does, but it is less hazardous because it is not more flammable than petrol. And that is the second hierarchy of control that we are talking about today. So the first and the best one is to eliminate the hazard completely. And that is the effective one that can really ensure the environment or the workplace is safe. But if it's impossible, then we may decide to substitute, to bring an alternative equipment that will do the same work but with less hazard. And that is when we do substitute. So if the element, or if a material does possess a huge or a major hazard or fire hazard in a workplace, we may decide to substitute it with a less hazardous material. The third method is sometimes elimination of the hazard is impossible, as well as substitution. So if combustible and flammable materials cannot be eliminated at all in a workplace, or they cannot be substituted, then the quantities of these materials present in the workplace should be minimized and reduced to an acceptable standards or level. So this is another method, or the third method, that we can use in controlling combustible and flammable materials in a workplace. If the first method, elimination, is impossible, then we opt into the second method, which is substitution. And if substitution still is impossible, then we may decide to reduce the amount of the hazardous materials in the presence in the organization. And this can be done where all the old materials which are unnecessary, or they are no longer going to be used in an organization, you may decide to remove all of them and only keep the materials that you need at that given moment. Another thing is, for example, if you are using cardboards, if you need cardboards in making packaging materials. So we all know that cardboards are flammable materials. So if you cannot eliminate them completely in the workplace, the best way to do is to minimize their accumulation and only keep the cardboards that you need to ensure that the work will continue, but to prevent and to control the spread, the start of fire, and even its control. And that will mark the end of our today's discussion. And let's meet in the next video. But if you find this information as useful and educative, please, I ask you humbly to subscribe to this channel and share the video so that this information, this knowledge can be shared and benefit as many people as possible. Thank you so much, and let's meet in our next video.